All right, we're going to start lesson 7-1, estimating sums and differences of fractions. I can estimate sums and differences of fractions. Jack needs about 1.5 yards of string. He has 3 pieces of string that are different lengths. Without finding the exact amount, which 2 pieces should he choose to get closer to 1.5 yards of string? Solve the problem any way you choose. So we're looking for 1.5. So the string is all lined up so you can see which one's smaller, which one's larger. And we want a total of 1.5. So what will get us closest to 1.5? You can use a number line to help you solve this, and that might help a little bit. So if we use a number line, we can use what's already here. So this one is 7/8. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this would make us at a hole. That would make us at one hole. So now let's continue that number line. And we go to 2 holes, and our target is right here, 1.5. So what piece should we bring over to get us closest to 1.5? So you can see we need quite a bit of a distance here, and a half would put us here. That would give us another half. We'd still have a missing piece right here. But if you had to estimate which would get closest, you could say 7/8 plus 1/2 would get us closest, but a little bit less than 1.5. So using a number line is a strategy. You can also use a fraction chart. And to find yourself a fraction chart, all you need to do is pull one up. So here's a fraction chart right here. Pick any one of these that come up, and you can see 7/8 is going to bring us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, here we are. 7/8 is right here. And we want to be at 1.5. So if we add the half a yard right up here, we'll get, over 1, closer to 1.5. So it would be good if you can print one of these. That would be great. If you can't, you can always bookmark one. So you just find one that you like. And here's a printable one right here. Printable fraction chart right here. Or remember, you can just click that little star and that will bookmark it for you. So you can go back to it whenever you need to go back to it. So you can use a fraction chart, or you can use a number line, or you can use your basic knowledge about fractions if you have any. And a number line can help you estimate by deciding if the fraction's closest to some of the benchmarks. And our benchmark fractions, remember, we kind of went over this in the review a little bit. Our benchmark fractions are 1/2, 1/3, 2/3, 3/4, 1 whole. Those are benchmark fractions. So for 1.5, that is, the half there is a benchmark. So let's see what we're doing next. So as we move through this first lesson, we're just kind of dipping our toes in fractions and seeing what we can remember from last year. How can you estimate the sum of 2 fractions? Estimate the sum to find out how long the combined pipes would be. Mr. Fish is welded together 2 copper pipes to repair a leak. He will use the pipe shown. Is the new pipe closer to 1/2 a foot or 1 foot? And explain. So step 1, they're using a number line to help them. So they're making a number line, and they want to know if it's closer to a 1/2 foot or 1 foot long. So their number line, if you take a look, what they decided to do, oops, sorry, I'm bouncing around here, was to make a number line that went to 1, because that's their greatest value they're looking for. So let me get this back here. I can't see the problem. Hang on. There we go. So he's welding together 2 copper pipes to repair a leak. Is the new pipe closer to a 1/2 a foot or 1 foot long. So we know that 1/6 is way less than a half a foot, and 5/12 is close to a half a foot. So you can see that it's going to be, if you combine them, if you add them together, if you combine 5/12 and 1/6, you're going to wind up kind of around here. So you're going to be closer to 1/2. So that's using some benchmarking tools. And another way we do it is we say what's closer to. So if you're rounding, 5/12 would round up to 1/2. 1/6 would actually round down to 0. So you'll be closer to 1/2. Let me go back to this one here. Nani says, Nalini says that if the denominator is more than twice the number, the fraction can always be replaced with a 0. Is she correct? No, she's not correct, because, for example, like 5/12 is closer to 1/2 than 0, even though the denominator is more than twice the numerator. So you can't go by that. In the problem at the top of page 372, would you get the same estimate if Mr. Fish's pipes measured 2/6 of a foot and 7/12? So we already know that 7/12 is, let me get this, 7/12 and 2/6. 7/12, if we're estimating it, it's going to be close to a half. 6/12 would be a half. So 7/12 is pretty darn close to that. And 2/6, a half, when we're talking about sixes, is 3/6. 3/6 is a half. So those are both equal to 1/2. So 2/6 is close to a half, and 7/12 is close to a half. So that is kind of close to a half. So if you were to add those together, you would get a whole. So would you get the same estimate? 2/6 is close to a half, and 7/12 is close to a half. So the estimate would be about 1 foot of pipe. And number sense, if a fraction has 1 in the numerator and a number greater than 2 in the denominator, will the fraction be closer to 0, a half, or 1? So let's take a look at some of these. If the fraction has a 1 in the numerator and something greater than 3 in the denominator. So let's take a look. Would it be closer to a 0, a half, or a 1? Anytime you have a 1 in the numerator, and 1/2 is the exception, because 1/2 is closer to a half. Obviously, it is a half. Anything with a 1 in the numerator that's greater than, or anything with greater than 2 in the denominator is going to be closer to a 0, because these are unit fractions. They're very close on a number line. A unit fraction is close to 0. So you'd say 1/6 would be over here, 1/5, 1/4. They're closer to a 0 than they are to a half. In number 3 and 4, use a number line to tell the fractions close to 0, a half, or a whole. So let's take a look. 11/12. And if you go to a number line, you're going to know you only need 1 more 12 to get close to a whole. 1/6, we just talked about that. Remember that rule over here? It's going to be closer to a 0. Estimate the sum of 11/12 and 1/6. So 1 plus 0, 1 plus 0 equals 1. For the next one, number 4, 14/16. Again, you only need 2 more 16ths to get close to number 1. And remember, for 16ths, a half would be that. So 14/16 is way bigger than a half. It's closer to the whole. And 5/8, a half would be 4/8. That's renaming it to an equivalent fraction. So 5/8 is pretty close to a half. So estimate the difference. So we're subtracting. 1 minus 1/2 is equal to a half. All right, so We have a couple problems here in the independent practice. I want to go through them real quickly because I know a lot of kids forgot a lot of this from last year. So 7/8 is very close to 8/8, which is a whole. So we'll say that's close to 1. 5/12, remember our benchmarks in twelfths. 6/12 would be a half. 12/12 would be a whole. So 5/12 is pretty close to 6/12. So we'll say that's closest to a half. So the estimate of 7/8 and the estimate of 5/12, when we are looking for the difference, they're going to be equal to 1/2. And for number 6, again, you can use a fraction chart if you need to use that. It takes a little bit longer, but you can use it. So think of what you have here. 9/10 is close to 10/10, which would be a whole, and 5/6 is close to 6/6, which would be a whole. So 1 plus 1 equals 2. And for number 7, 11/18. Think of your benchmarks. What's a half when you're talking about 18ths? 9/18. That's 9, 10, 11. I would say this one's closest to 11/18 is closer to a half because a whole would be 18/18. And we're saying 11/18. Is it closer to 9/18 or 18/18? It's closer to 9. So we're going to say it's 1/2 minus 2/9 is close to 0. Because and when you have these denominators that are odd, and when you have an odd denominator and you're trying to figure out estimates, you can, and this is not how you write a fraction, but this will help you. So what's halfway between 0 and 9? It's 4.5. So you want to see, is 2/9 closer to 0/9 or 4.5/9? And it's closer to 0/9. So we're going to say a half minus 0 is 1/2 for number 7. For number 8, 1/16. Anytime you see a unit fraction, it's closer to 0. Closer to 0. Closer to 0. Those are easy. 2/5, 2/15. Halfway for 15ths. Halfway, like in the middle of 15, would be 7.5. So 2/15 is closer to 0. So that one's going to equal 0. 24/25 is very close to 1. 1 minus 0 is 1. And watch your sign. Make sure you're doing the right sign there. 3/36 is really close to 1/36. So that's going to be another 0 plus 0 equals 0. And 37/40 is close to 40/40, which would be a whole. 1 minus, now for this one, 26/50. The halfway would be 25/50. That's halfway for 50. So that's pretty close to that. So again, we're subtracting here. 1 minus 1/2 is 1/2. Okay, go do some buddy work.